Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. There is a horizon, but not the kind you see from a mountaintop or an open sea. This one is made of light. It wraps itself around everything, stretching far beyond the eyes, far beyond even the instruments that we send to chase it. The speed of light, 186,282 miles in a single second, is not just a number. It is a law written into the quiet fabric of reality. It is a ceiling, a silent boundary, the universe's gentle whisper. No further, no faster. Imagine a beam of light born in the heart of a star. It bursts forth in silence, weaving its way across space, slipping through the void with no need for a path. It does not grow tired. It does not slow down. For that beam, there is no waiting, no delay. Time itself seems to pause. Because when you move at the speed of light, time does not move at all. This is not a guess. It is the strange but steady truth of our universe. Everywhere you look, the speed of light is present, not just in the shine of the sun or the glow of the moon, but in the limits of every motion, every signal, every ripple of energy. When you flick on a lamp, the light seems instant, but it isn't. It travels, it moves, fast enough to feel like magic, yet still bound to this cosmic pace. Even the messages bouncing between stars, whispering through the emptiness from spacecraft to Earth, must obey this rule. They go no faster than light. Now imagine a tiny particle, a bit of dust perhaps. It's drifting through space, tugged gently by gravity, pushed softly by starlight. To move it faster and faster takes effort, more and more energy. If you keep pushing, keep feeding it energy, it does move faster. But there's a catch. As it approaches the speed of light, something strange begins to happen. The energy you give it doesn't just make it go quicker, instead, it starts turning into mass. The particle becomes heavier, harder to move, as if the universe itself is resisting. This is the heart of Einstein's most famous insight. E equals mc squared. Energy and mass are twins. The closer something gets to the speed of light, the more energy it needs. Not just a little more, but endlessly more. At the speed of the light it would need infinite energy, and that is something nature simply doesn't provide. No rocket, no engine, no pulse of force can supply it. The universe holds that boundary gently but firmly. And what of light itself? Why does it get to move so fast, so freely? Because light is weightless. It has no rest mass. A photon, a particle of light, is born moving. It doesn't need to be pushed, it simply is. Unlike anything with weight, light does not slow down. It cannot stop. It moves through the vacuum with perfect ease, always at the same speed, no matter who watches or how they move. Now drift with this thought a little longer. Think about a star 500 light years away. The light from that star left long before you were born. It has been travelling ever since, uninterrupted, untouched, bearing stories older than any human memory. And when that light touches your eyes, or the lens of a telescope, it's not just brightness, it's history, it's a journey, it's a moment from centuries ago, arriving only now. The speed of light is not just about fastness, it's about connection. It's how we see the past. It's how we communicate across space. It's how the fabric of time itself bends and stretches. It is, in a way, the heartbeat of the universe. Even time bows to this law. The faster you move, the slower your clock ticks, relative to others. And if you could somehow ride on a beam of light, time would stop altogether. But for you, on that beam, the ride would be weightless and instant. No seconds would pass, no minutes, no days. The journey would be everything and nothing, all at once. This might seem like a paradox, but it's not. It's simply how nature speaks. in soft whispers, in curved space and stretched time, in limits that feel like riddles, in speed that can never be passed, no matter how much we wish it could. Some have tried to imagine things faster than light, tachyons, particles that could outrun even the swiftest photon. But these remain dreams. The mathematics allows strange possibilities, but the real world stays quiet. No such particle has ever been seen, and perhaps it never will be, because the universe is content with its rhythm, with its pace, with light as its messenger, and nothing that dares to overtake it. The silence between stars is not empty. It is filled with light on the move, gentle, ancient, steady. It carries warmth from suns we cannot name, reflections from planets we'll never reach. And all of it, every glimmer, every flicker, obeys this one rule. Not because of fear, but because this is how the universe dances. You can almost feel it if you close your eyes. The way the light wraps around you, not harsh, but quiet. The way it outlines the edge of every leaf, every breath, every memory. It is not rushing, it is not shouting. It simply continues at its chosen pace forever. So when we ask, why can nothing go faster than light? We're really asking something deeper. Why does the universe have limits? Why does it sing in slow harmonies instead of racing in chaos? And maybe the answer is a kind of grace, a softness built into everything, a pause, a rhythm, a limit that allows meaning to arise. The speed of light is more than speed. It is a promise that no message will outrun time, that no shadow will vanish unchased, that no moment will arrive too soon. It is the horizon that cradles the cosmos, quietly saying, here and no further. Let's drift deeper now, into the fabric that wraps around this mysterious speed. If light moves so fast and nothing can surpass it, what does that truly mean for the world we live in? What lies beneath this rule that all things obey? To understand, we must first feel the space around us, not the space of rooms and roads, but the great cosmic space that stretches in every direction. It is not still. It is not fixed. Space itself is flexible, like a soft sheet that bends and moves with time. Einstein's gentle revelation was that space and time are not separate. They are one thing, woven together, like threads in a silent tapestry. We call it space-time, and in this fabric, light doesn't just travel across the surface, it helps define the surface. The speed of a light is like the tension in the threads, the rhythm that guides how the universe stretches and curves. When you place something heavy, like a planet or a star, on this fabric, it makes a dent. That dent is what we feel as gravity. Light does not escape this, even though it has no weight. It follows the bends and curves, wrapping itself along the warps of space. It glides through valleys shaped by mass, just as a river follows the slope of the land. This is why starlight curves around the sun. It's not being pulled in the usual sense. It's following the shape of space itself. And here's where things become stranger and more beautiful. Because the speed of a light is not just a limit for motion, it is the bridge between how space changes and how time flows. If space stretches, time slows. If gravity deepens, clocks tick more gently. In the presence of mass, time itself is softened, drawn like water down a hill. Imagine being near a black hole, that deep and quiet chasm of space-time. As you move closer, time begins to shift. Not for you, perhaps. You feel normal. But someone far away watching would see you slow. They would see your motions draw out like stretched shadows. If you could hover at the edge of the black hole, time for you would nearly stop. A moment for you might be an eternity for someone else. And the light you send out, it too would stretch. It would grow redder, weaker, as it climbs away from the gravity. This is called redshift, a soft lengthening of light, a sign that time is bending. The speed of light remains the same, always the same, but the way we measure it, The way we experience it changes because space-time itself is curved. Everywhere we look, we see this rhythm. The light from galaxies far away is stretched by the universe's expansion. These galaxies are not racing through space. Space itself is growing, pulling everything apart like dots on a balloon being slowly filled with air. And as it expands, the light that travels through it stretches too. This ancient light, born billions of years ago, carries the imprint of a younger universe. It is dimmer now, cooler, redder, but it still tells the story, faithful to its speed, faithful to its law. And what of us here on this small turning Earth? The speed of light shapes our lives more than we know. It defines our GPS systems, which must correct for the tiny warps in time caused by Earth's gravity. It defines our internet signals, our satellites, our cameras, our medical scanners. In every device that speaks with another, the light speed delay is there, invisible yet precise, a reminder that we are always dancing beneath the ceiling. But more than just a rule, the speed of light is a kind of boundary between worlds. Below it lies everything we know: matter, force, motion, change. Above it lies silence, a place we cannot touch, cannot cross. For anything with mass, the gap is unbridgeable, but for light, there is no gap. Light lives at that boundary. It is the boundary. Some physicists have wondered, what would it be like to see the universe from light's point of view? A photon born in the core of the sun travels outward, takes 8 minutes to reach us, but from its perspective, no time passes at all. In a strange way, that photon is born and arrives at the same moment. For us, it took minutes. For it, there was no journey, only presence. This idea is not a fantasy. It is a result of our best understanding of how motion and time are connected, and it leads to quiet thoughts. What does it mean for something to exist without the passage of time? How can movement occur if no moments tick by? These are not easy questions, but they hint at something deep. The speed of light is not just a rule of motion, it is a mirror of time itself. Now think again of the particle from before, the bit of dust, the speck of matter. You can push it, speed it up, make it go faster and faster, but you will find that each step costs more energy than the last. And as you approach light speed, the cost becomes infinite. This is not a trick, it is a safeguard. Nature builds in this resistance to prevent chaos. If anything with mass could reach light speed, cause and an effect would unravel, time would twist, signals could arrive before they were sent, the arrow of time would bend, and yet this limit gives shape to everything. Without it, we would have no sense of before or after, no structure to memory or history or hope. The light speed ceiling gives order to time. It ensures that the events unfold gently, one after another. It protects the flow of moments that life depends on. In the early universe, just after the Great Expansion began, light moved freely, bouncing from particle to particle in a thick, glowing fog. But as the universe cooled, atoms formed, and suddenly, light could travel. It was released in every direction, marking the beginning of the cosmic background glow. That ancient light still travels today, unchanged, unhurried. It fills every corner of space. It is the oldest light we can see, and it has never broken the speed limit. You can almost imagine it now, a quiet ocean of ancient light lapping against every atom, every planet, every cell. A sea of memories moving always at the same pace and never rushing, never tiring. And perhaps the most poetic truth of all is this: the speed of light is not just about physics. It is about boundaries and balance and the stillness hidden inside movement. It is about a universe that could have chosen chaos, but instead chose calm. A universe where light leads and everything else follows, patiently, respectfully, always behind. So next time you see a sunrise or the beam of a flashlight or a star blinking in the night, remember this, that light has travelled far. It has moved with quiet purpose. It has obeyed a law older than stars, softer than breath. And it carries with it not just energy, but a message. A reminder that in this vast and shifting cosmos, even the fastest thing is not beyond our understanding. It is with us, around us, within us, always moving, always guiding, always at the speed of light. Now let's follow this light to its quiet conclusion, not to an ending, but to a resting place in our thoughts. The speed of light, so absolute, so constant, becomes more than a number, more than a limit. It becomes a story the universe tells over and over, in every corner of space and every flicker of time. And this story ends not with noise, but with silence, a soft hush that settles into the soul. In the heart of every telescope, light is the guest of honour. We do not touch the stars, we do not travel to galaxies, but their light arrives, and with it the shape of their being. It flows into our lenses, our mirrors, our sensors. It carries not just brightness, but time. We study galaxies as they were, not as they are. Some of them may no longer even exist, yet we still see them. Their light is still crossing the cosmos, faithful to its journey. It reminds us that everything we see is part memory. Imagine an alien world orbiting a distant sun. You cannot go there. Not now, not soon. The fastest spacecraft we've made would take tens of thousands of years, but its light, if it sends any, can reach us, wrapped in the laws of the cosmos. And when we capture that light, we are not just seeing across space, we are seeing across time. We are witnessing a message from a faraway past, whispered at the only speed allowed. In this way, the speed of light becomes a poet's measure. It gives the universe a kind of pacing. Nothing rushes, nothing still skips. Everything flows, like a river that never spills us over its banks. It is this limit that allows beauty to unfold slowly, to arrive with meaning. Even the patterns of life, of growth and aging, are shaped by the steadiness of light and the time it takes to move. There are scientists who study ways to go faster. They explore theories of warped space, shortcuts through folded dimensions, tunnels where distances collapse. These are not fantasies, but careful dreams, mathematical explorations of what might be possible in a different kind of universe. Yet even these ideas do not ignore the speed of light. They bend the space, not the rule. They try to move the road, not the traveller. Because light's speed remains the ceiling always. If you could fold space like a piece of paper, then poke a hole through it, maybe you could arrive somewhere faster. But you're still not moving faster than light. You're changing the path. It is a quiet trick, a dance around the edges of the law. But the law itself remains. It is the deep grammar of the cosmos, and all things must speak its language. Now let your thoughts wander to the outer edges of our galaxy. There in the darkness float stars older than any story. They shine softly, some for billions of years, and the light they shed travels outward, sometimes alone, sometimes caught by dust, sometimes pulled by gravity. But it always moves the same way, at the same speed. It does not hurry. It does not hesitate. It is easy to forget in the rush of life that even the fastest thing in the universe moves at a fixed pace. There is no instant, no true immediacy. Everything we see is delayed. Everything we feel arrives with a pause. The light from your friend's eyes, the glow of your screen, the reflection in a mirror, it all travels. Tiny distances, yes, fractions of moments, but always real, always delayed by this gentle cosmic rhythm. This delay is not a flaw, it is a gift. It is what allows us to measure, to compare, to understand. If everything happened at once or faster than light, cause and effect would unravel. We would not know what came before. We would not know what made what. The order of the world would dissolve, but the speed of light preserves this order. It is the thread that stitches together all events. And now we reach a soft realization. The speed of light is not only a limit, not only a rule, it is a form of patience. The universe waits for its stories to unfold. It does not rush them. The journey of light from a distant star to your eyes may take centuries, but it makes the journey anyway, quietly, steadily, without asking to be noticed. Perhaps this is why we find stars comforting. They do not demand. They simply arrive night after night, They're light older than our cities, older than our languages. They remind us that even across unimaginable distances, something can still reach us. Something soft, something certain. And yet, for all its constancy, light can be fragile. It can be scattered, absorbed, twisted by gravity. It can be lost in dust or bent by lenses, or redshifted until its energy fades into background noise. And still, even in its fading, it honours its speed. Never faster, never faltering. There is a kind of humility in that. Light does not boast. It does not seek to dominate. It simply does what it must, always. It brings warmth. It brings sight. It brings the past into the present. And it does so under the quiet guidance of its speed. So when we say that nothing can go faster than light, we are not just describing a physical law. We are describing a philosophy, a balance, a calm, unwavering rhythm that brings meaning to time and shape to space. It is not a barrier to be broken, but a harmony to be respected. And in this harmony we find a kind of peace. We find the comfort of order, the reassurance of patterns. We find that even in the vastness of space, in the cold and the dark, there is something constant, something that moves gently, steadily, with grace. It is this grace that shapes the cosmos. It lights up nebulae, paints shadows on the moon, carries the signatures of atoms and galaxies to our fragile instruments. It whispers across blackness, telling stories without sound. It is everywhere, and it never needs to be faster. So let the speed of light remain what it is, a promise, not a prison, a whisper, not a wall, a soft, universal heartbeat that never skips. In this final reflection, we see not a race, but a rhythm, not a contest, but a calm. And as we close our eyes, we feel it, the light that has travelled across lifetimes to meet us here. Still moving, still arriving, still obeying the quiet truth that nothing can go faster, and nothing needs to. In the deep velvet sky, between the pinpricks of light, lies a stillness so complete that it hums with its own kind of presence. It is the space between the stars, the quiet ocean that stretches across the cosmos. It looks empty, but it is not. This vast darkness is full of invisible threads, of drifting particles, of silent fields that stretch from one galaxy to the next. It is the quiet breath of the universe. We often think of stars as the story, but the space between them is just as important. It holds the structure of everything. It is where gravity drifts like wind, where radiation slides past unnoticed, where matter whispers in clouds too thin to touch. This interstellar space, this stillness, is not absence. It is potential. It is what binds the stars in place and gives meaning to their glow. When we look up, we are drawn to the light. But most of what we see is the dark. Between every star is a journey, thousands of years of light crossing emptiness. The space between the stars is vast beyond imagining. Even the nearest star to Earth, Proxima Centauri, is over 4 light-years away. That means the light we see from it tonight left before some of our memories began. This stillness is not frozen. It moves, slowly, gently, shaped by the pull of galaxies and the drift of time. The Milky Way itself spins, carrying stars and planets and clouds of dust with it. And between them all is the interstellar medium, a name for the faint matter and energy that exists in the darkness. It is not truly a vacuum. There are atoms here, far apart but real. There are particles, fields, waves and radiation, all swirling in their own quiet rhythms. If you could float there between the stars, away from any planet, you would not hear sound. There is no air to carry it, but your eyes might see pale streaks of cosmic rays. Your skin might feel the cool absence of heat. You would be surrounded by the breath of the galaxy, so thin, yet so constant. The atoms here might only number a few per cubic centimetre, but they are enough to shape the paths of spacecraft, enough to feed the birth of stars, because this space is not just still, it is fertile. Within the cold arms of the galaxy, clouds of gas slowly collapse. Gravity, ever patient, gathers them inward. Over millions of years, pressure builds. temperature rises, and then, with a quiet ignition, a star is born. From the silence between the stars comes new light. From the dark, a flame. The cycle is ancient. Stars are not eternal. They burn and then they fade. Some explode, sending their material outward. Some collapse into dense cores, and that material returns to the interstellar space, enriching it. The silence between the stars is full of echoes, atoms that once lived in suns, in planets, in perhaps other beings. This dust, drifting now, may one day become part of something new. Even now, as you read this, your body contains atoms older than Earth, particles that were forged in ancient stars scattered into the galaxy, gathered by time and chemistry into life. You are made of this stillness, you carry it with you. The space between the stars is not separate from us, it is within us. The quiet reaches of interstellar space are also shaped by invisible lines. Magnetic fields stretch across them, carried by the motion of the galaxy. They twist and curve, guiding charged particles, shaping the forms of glowing clouds and radio waves. These fields cannot be seen, but they are there. They stitch the silence together, holding it in place like threads through fabric. And there are winds here too, though they are nothing like the winds on Earth. These are solar winds, stellar winds, faint streams of particles cast off by stars. The sun too sends out such a wind. It forms a great bubble called the heliosphere, a protective shell that shields the solar system from much of the galaxy's radiation. At its edge lies the true beginning of interstellar space, a boundary not drawn in light, but in pressure and motion. When the Voyager spacecraft passed into this region, it carried with it the hopes of Earth. And what it found was not a sharp wall, but a slow transition. The space grew quieter. The particles changed. The silence deepened. And still, there were signs of motion, faint ripples, shifts in magnetic fields, echoes of explosions from faraway stars. So what does it mean, this stillness between the stars? It means that the universe breathes. It expands not into emptiness, but into itself. It carries dust and dreams and the leftover whispers of cosmic events. It allows things to drift, to change, to wait. It is the patient space where stars are born and return. It is not empty. It is simply quiet. And in that quiet, there is meaning, there is grace, there is the soft idea that the universe does not need to be crowded to be full, that even the widest gaps can carry purpose, that silence can hold more than sound. Close your eyes and imagine it. The space between Alpha Centauri and the Sun, the thin trail of light from one to the other, the slow hum of background radiation, the occasional spark of a cosmic ray, and all of it resting not in chaos, but in a kind of gentle balance. This is not loneliness, it is spaciousness. It is the room the stars need to shine, the stillness that lets their voices carry. It is not absence, it is invitation, and we are part of it always, carried in the orbit of our sun, wrapped in the arms of our galaxy, drifting through the soft starlit dark. Let's drift deeper now into the hush between the stars, where gravity is gentle and time seems to stretch its limbs. Out here, distance is measured not in miles, but in the patience of light, and the silence is not emptiness, but a resting place for the universe itself. The stillness is not idle, it is alive with subtle motions, with ancient processes that take eons to unfold, far from the noise of planets and their spinning worries. In this space, whole clouds of gas wander slowly, barely shifting across thousands of years. These clouds are the birthplaces of stars, though they do not look like nurseries. They are cold, dark, vast. Within them, atoms drift closer together, nudged by gravity's delicate pull. There is no rush. The formation of a star is not an event. It is a lullaby sung in deep time. A region of slightly denser gas will gather more gas, and as it folds in on itself, pressure builds, heat rises, and a light is kindled. One day, perhaps millions of years after the first faint clumping, a star awakens, it glows, and it pushes back on the darkness. But this awakening happens only because of the stillness. Without the quiet space around it, there would be no room to gather, no pause for the dance of creation. The silence between stars allows stars to be born. It cradles them in distance so that each has its own sphere of warmth, its own breathing room in the galaxy. And not just stars. In the outskirts of those clouds, where gravity is weaker and dust lingers, planets may begin to form. Bits of rock and ice collide, stick and spin. Disks of matter around young stars thicken and cool. And within those disks, new worlds take shape. Again, this does not happen in chaos, but in deep order, in stillness, in the long, slow unfolding of cosmic rhythm. Between the stars, between even the spiral arms of the galaxy, there are currents of gas, thin and ancient. These filaments stretch for light years, carrying the elemental pieces of future stars and planets. They are the veins of the galaxy, the quiet arteries of creation. They move with purpose, though we cannot hear their motion. They do not need to shout. They carry carbon and hydrogen and oxygen, the same building blocks found in every breath, every heartbeat, every leaf. From afar, the galaxy looks like a swirl of light. But inside that swirl is space, spacious space, holding everything in place. The arms of the Milky Way are not solid bands. They are patterns, formed by the orbits of stars and gas, shaped by gravity and time. And between those arms are the wide lanes of the interarm regions, less crowded but still full of promise. Our own solar system is in such a place, drifting through one of these arms, surrounded by the faint hush of the interstellar medium. Here, the sun's influence is not alone. It shares space with magnetic fields that come from far beyond, with cosmic rays that travel from distant explosions, with dust that carries the history of other worlds. And yet, even with so much passing through, the space is quiet. You could travel millions of miles without hitting a single atom. But when those atoms gather, they speak in radio waves, in faint ultraviolet light, in spectral lines that reveal their secrets. From this, we learn what the silence holds. We find water in faraway clouds, organic molecules floating free, traces of life's ingredients waiting to be gathered again. These quiet regions are not only for birth, they're also places of return. When a star dies, especially a large one, it may end in a supernova, an explosion that blasts its elements into space. That energy and matter rush outward into the interstellar medium, where they mix and drift. What remains is not only beauty, rings of gas, glowing remnants, but a gift. The ingredients of new stars, new planets, and possibly new life. So the stillness between the stars is also a canvas of memory. It carries the remains of long-dead stars, their ashes now floating as cosmic dust. That dust may gather into new worlds, and those worlds may one day wonder where they came from. The answer will be from the silence, from the pause between moments, from the stillness that allowed the universe to breathe. We sometimes call this region empty space, but that's a misname. There are energies here that we barely understand. There is dark matter, invisible but strong, guiding the movement of galaxies. There is dark energy, a gentle force pushing space to expand faster and faster. These forces shape the universe, yet they remain hidden, quiet, elusive. They are the soft background against which the stars perform. Even light is changed by the stillness. As it travels for millions of years, it can stretch, shifting into red, losing energy to the growing fabric of space. This is how we know the universe is expanding, because the light we see carries the fingerprint of distance. In this silence, light becomes a storyteller. It tells us how far it has come, how fast space is stretching, how long it has travelled alone. And yet, even when it fades, light persists. Some of the oldest light in the universe, the cosmic microwave background, still hums around us. It is the leftover glow of the Big Bang, stretched thin and cool to just above absolute zero, It fills all of space, even the emptiest places. It is a reminder that the silence is never truly silent. It carries echoes of the beginning. Close your eyes and think of Voyager again, the little craft drifting beyond the planets, now more than 15 billion miles away. It moves through this quiet, through space where the sun is only a pale memory. It sends back data in whispers, its signal so faint it takes hours to reach us. Yet in those whispers, we hear the hush of interstellar space. We hear the stillness. We feel the breath of the galaxy. This breath is not made of air. It is made of time and space and memory. It is the cradle of all things and the resting place of all things. Between every star, between every light, this breath continues. It surrounds us even now. And so we are not separate from the stillness. We are born in it, shaped by it, and destined to return to it. The calm between the stars is not a void. It is a presence that listens, it remembers, it waits. And in its waiting, it creates. Let's return one final time to that wide and quiet place between the stars. Let your thoughts drift without effort, like a grain of dust floating where gravity barely reaches, where time feels long and space stretches without edge. This is where the stars rest between their songs, where galaxies breathe slow and soft. And as we move through this final layer of silence, we find not just the stillness of distance, but a deeper peace, the universe at ease with itself. The space between the stars is not a place we are likely to visit, not with feet or rockets or sails. It is not marked on maps in clear lines or bold labels, but it is there, surrounding everything, a kind of invisible ocean, delicate and vast. And within it, we find a quiet resilience. For though it seems fragile, this interstellar space is strong. It carries energy, it weathers radiation, it transmits waves of gravity. It is the stage upon which all celestial things perform. Even the largest explosions in the universe, the supernovae, the collisions of neutron stars, the ripples in space-time, must pass through this stillness. And still the space holds. It bends, it flows, but it does not break. That is the secret of the silence. It is not weakness. It is a kind of strength beyond noise, beyond motion. A strength that allows the universe to move without falling apart. In this great calm, we also find boundaries, subtle edges where one star's influence ends and another begins. The sun, for instance, sends out its solar wind, creating a bubble called the heliosphere. At the edge of that bubble, the interstellar wind pushes back. There is no line to see, but there is a meeting of forces, a balance. Voyager passed through this place. It now sails the true interstellar sea, where the particles are not from our sun but from the wider galaxy. There is something almost mythic about that journey. A small craft carrying the whispers of Earth, now floating in a silence so complete that every signal it sends must be carefully gathered, amplified, listened to by giant dishes on Earth. And yet that signal still arrives. It cuts across the dark. It travels through the hush. Even in this stillness, connection is possible. What does this tell us? That the silence between the stars does not isolate. It links. It holds everything in place, allowing light and gravity and motion to ripple through without resistance. Without it, the stars would collide, galaxies would fall apart, but in its embrace, everything holds. This stillness is the glue of the cosmos. And here is another quiet wonder. Even in the emptiest parts of interstellar space, there is motion. Not the hurried motion of wind or storm, but the gentle curve of gravity. Stars orbit the centers of galaxies. Clouds of gas drift toward collapse. Tiny dust grains spiral around newborn stars. The silence between the stars allows this motion to be visible. It does not clutter. It does not compete. It reveals. In some of these quiet regions, astronomers have found cold hydrogen clouds, the rawest form of matter, invisible to our eyes, but not to radio telescopes, which can hear their signature hum. These clouds are relics, unchanged for billions of years. They are records of what the universe was before stars were born, and still they float. Still they wait. Perhaps the most poetic truth is this, that in the stillness between stars we can hear the echoes of the universe becoming. The afterglow of the Big Bang, the patterns of ancient hydrogen, the fingerprints of dark matter, they all exist in this silence. And when we listen closely, with instruments tuned to the calm, we begin to hear the first sentences of creation. We often think of space as lonely, but that is a human idea shaped by our need for sound and closeness. The universe is not lonely. It is spacious, it is open, and in its openness, it is full. The stillness does not lack. It holds, it nurtures, it surrounds, it protects. Even now your body is moving through this space. Earth travels around the sun, and the sun orbits the centre of the Milky Way. We are all in motion through the interstellar medium, wrapped in the slow spiral of the galaxy. And yet we do not feel this movement, because it is smooth, it is gentle. The silence moves with us. And though we may never travel between the stars, we already belong to the space between them. The atoms in our lungs, in our blood, in our thoughts, they once floated freely in that vast dark. They were gathered by time, shaped by gravity, forged in light. And one day, far from now, they may return, not with violence, but with a kind of cosmic sigh. So let us rest here for a moment. In the final part of this journey, let us feel the quiet that lies behind the stars, beneath the galaxies, beneath everything. This is not a silence of absence. It is a silence of origin. It is the backdrop of all becoming. It is the canvas on which all things are painted. The stars shimmer because the darkness lets them. The galaxies spiral because the space around them gives room. And life rises because the stillness between stars made space for light to reach us. This silence is not an empty space to be crossed. It is a place to be understood, to be honoured, to be heard. And if you listen closely, if you quiet your thoughts and open your senses, you may feel it even now. The hush between stars, the breath of the universe, the stillness that holds everything, always there, always listening, always waiting. There is something magical about a photon. It is the smallest sliver of light, a weightless whisper of energy, travelling through the universe without ever touching the ground. It moves without mass, without rest, without a past or future in the way we understand them. It simply exists in motion. And yet within each photon is the story of stars, of time, of sight and warmth and memory. Imagine a single photon leaving the surface of the sun. It began its journey long before it ever saw space. Deep in the sun's core, countless nuclear reactions give birth to energy, and this energy takes a long and winding path outward. It bounces, scatters, is absorbed and re-emitted, so much so that a single photon may spend thousands of years trying to escape. And when at last it breaks free from the glowing surface, it flies at the speed of light with no need for wings. From the sun to Earth it takes just over 8 minutes, but for the photon itself the journey is instant. Time does not pass for a photon. From its perspective, it is emitted and absorbed in the same breath. It does not experience the space it crosses. It does not feel the stretch of seconds. It is a traveller that knows no road. This is not just a poetic image, it is a truth at the heart of physics. Because the faster you move through space, the slower time flows for you, and at the speed of light, time stands still. The photon moving at light speed does not age. It is timeless, and in that timelessness, it becomes something more than a particle. It becomes a thread connecting two moments, two places, without occupying the space in between. Now imagine this happening everywhere, all the time. Billions of photons flying from every star, every fire, every screen. They travel in straight lines, unless nudged by gravity. They reflect, they refract, they scatter. And every time you open your eyes, you catch them. You gather light into your vision. You absorb pieces of stars and fireflies and morning skies. The photons enter your eyes, strike your retina, and trigger signals that your brain turns into sight. Without ever resting, they paint your world. But light does more than show. It warms, it powers, it reveals. On Earth, sunlight stirs the leaves, awakens the roots, sets the air in motion. It drives weather, feeds oceans, and sparks the engines of cells. A photon falling on a green leaf may release an electron, beginning a cascade of reactions that feed a tree. That same tree, fed by sunlight, may one day fall and become coal or oil, and when burned, release the stored photons once again. So light is not just a traveller, it is a currency, passed from star to planet to plant to fire to eye, a silent cycle of energy that connects all living things. And yet this photon, for all its activity, has no mass. It is energy, pure and perfect, always in motion. It cannot slow down, it cannot stop. If it did, it would vanish. Because for something with no mass, rest is not an option. Stillness is not allowed. The photon exists only as motion, only as flow. This flow is the timeless river, a stream of light that has no beginning or end, only connection. From the first light of the early universe to the glow of your bedside lamp, photons link the cosmos together in an invisible weave. They are not pushed, they are not delayed, they do not wander. They move always at the same pace in every frame through every field. And sometimes they bend, not because they choose to, but because space itself is curved. A massive object like a planet or a star warps the fabric of space, and light follows the bend. It does not resist, it does not slow, it simply adapts. And in doing so, it shows us the shape of gravity. It lets us see the curve of space-time. This bending of light is how we see distant galaxies warped into rings and arcs, how we find exoplanets passing in front of stars, how we map the invisible tug of dark matter. Photons in their journey reveal what they've passed by. They are messengers not just of energy, but of structure, of presence, of mass. And yet they leave no trail. A photon does not look back. Once it is absorbed by an eye, a leaf, a camera, it is gone. The energy it carried is transferred, and the photon itself ceases to exist. This is not loss. It is transformation. Each photon gives itself away completely, with no residue, no memory. It arrives, it gives, and it disappears. There is something deeply gentle in that, a grace in giving all, asking nothing in return. The photon carries the message from one place to another, and then fades. In doing so, it becomes part of something larger, a moment, a sight, a breath of warmth. Think now of a candle flame. The light it gives off is made of countless photons born in heat, scattering outward into the room. They bounce off the walls, the table, your hands. Some reach your eyes, some are absorbed by the floor, some escape through the window, joining the sea of light that fills the night. And every one of those photons is moving at the speed of light. Every one is riding that timeless river. Even in complete darkness, photons still arrive. From distant stars, from warm objects, from radiation that never stopped. The universe is full of light we cannot see. Infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, microwaves. All of them are photons, just with different flavours, different lengths, different frequencies. They fill the spaces between, waiting to be translated into sight or signal. And when you close your eyes, the light does not stop. It still surrounds you. It still passes through your skin. It still travels across your body, leaving no trace but warmth. It continues on, quiet and unbroken, part of the endless current that moves through space and time. To chase a photon is to chase a moment that cannot be held. It is to follow something that moves too fast to ever be caught, something that has no clock, no rest. And yet, in chasing it, we find truth. We find the nature of energy, of time, of what it means to move without aging. We find that in the heart of light is a story older than stars and gentler than breath. And so, as we sit under the sky and feel the light fall across us, we are not just observers, we are part of the river. We are touched by the same photons that dance through the heart of the sun, that crossed the cold of space, that carried time with them and gave it to us. We do not need to move at the speed of light to be part of its story. We are already written into it, every time we see or feel or remember the warmth of a single ray. Now let us float further along that timeless river, deeper into the motion that does not feel like motion at all. For a photon, movement is not a choice but a state of being. It does not begin and end the way our days do. It simply connects. And in this endless connection, it weaves together the vastness of the cosmos into a single shimmering thread. The photon does not care where it came from or where it's going, it is the journey itself. Imagine the early universe when it was young and hot and thick with particles. Photons then could not travel freely. They were trapped, bouncing from electron to proton, unable to escape the fog. The universe was not dark, but it was not transparent either. Then slowly, as space cooled and atoms began to form, the photons were set free. This moment, nearly 14 billion years ago, is known as recombination, the time when the universe became clear, and light could travel unimpeded. And travel it did. That very same light still moves through space today. It has stretched and cooled, becoming the cosmic microwave background, a soft, uniform glow that surrounds us on all sides. It is not bright, it is not visible, but it is everywhere, carrying with it the memory of the universe's first breath. These photons, untouched and unchanged, are older than stars. They are the oldest messengers we know, and they whisper from every direction, a hush that never fades. To understand how photons shape our world, we need only look around. Every moment of vision, every flicker of colour, every glint on water is the work of light. But more than that, it is the work of absorption and reflection. When light strikes a surface, it might bounce off, changing direction but not speed. Or it might be absorbed, transferring its energy and vanishing in the process. Or it might pass through, bending slightly as it does through glass or water. This behaviour is not just useful, it is life. The blue of the sky, the green of leaves, the shimmer of fish below the surface, these are not colours painted in place. They are songs of photons, interacting with matter in ways shaped by chemistry, by angle, by energy. You never see an object directly. You see the light it scatters, and the light you see has already travelled, has already begun to fade. Even in the darkest places, deep ocean trenches, cave systems untouched by sunlight, frozen moons drifting through black space, photons find a way. Sometimes from bioluminescent creatures, sometimes from human tools, but wherever they go, they illuminate, they reveal, they make the unseen knowable. Yet not all photons are light in the way we think of it. The spectrum is vast, stretching from radio waves as long as buildings to gamma rays so small they pass through atoms. And all of these are photons. They differ only in energy, in wavelength, in the music they play on the strings of space-time. Radio photons can travel across galaxies. Gamma photons can trace the birth of black holes. Each is a different note in the symphony of light. And like sound, light interacts with its surroundings. It can be polarized, twisted, scattered. It can interfere, cancelling itself out or building into waves. It is not just a particle, it is also a wave. This dual nature is not a contradiction. It is a truth that sits at the heart of quantum mechanics. A photon is both point and pattern, both touch and rhythm. There are places in the universe where this rhythm becomes strange. Near a black hole, for instance, the gravity is so strong that light bends inward, caught in a spiral. At the event horizon, the boundary beyond which nothing escapes, even photons cannot leave. They fall into the darkness, never to return. But just outside this boundary, light can circle the black hole, orbiting endlessly like a ghost of motion. And sometimes black holes give back. Through a process called Hawking radiation, they can emit photons, tiny quantum particles slipping out from the edge. This slow leaking of light is one of the only ways black holes can lose mass, a soft echo of the cosmic balance between matter and energy. Even stranger still are the experiments we do here on Earth. With just the right equipment, scientists can produce a pair of entangled photons, Two particles linked in such a way that whatever happens to one instantly affects the other, no matter the distance. This does not break the speed of light, but it challenges our ideas of time and space. It suggests that photons, in their deep simplicity, may hold keys to mysteries we are only beginning to understand. In our hands, photons become tools. We use them to cut steel with lasers, to transmit data through fiber optics, to peer inside the body without touching it. A single beam of light, focused just right, can carry information across oceans, and all of this happens without weight, without mass, just motion, just energy. And yet, with all this power, photons remain humble. They do not linger, they do not wait, they do not push, they simply move, obeying the speed set for them, which is also the speed of causality, the speed at which any influence can travel. This limit is not a wall, it is a guide, and light follows it perfectly. Sometimes we imagine what it would be like to ride on a photon, to see the universe from that timeless vantage point, but we cannot. To move at the speed of light is to step outside of time. For a photon, there is no before or after, only now. It is a being of presence, not sequence. It teaches us that motion and time are deeply tied, and that the fastest thing in the universe experiences no time at all. So we live our lives beneath this speed, bathed in light but bound by time. We see stars as they were, not as they are. We catch photons that began their journey before our grandparents were born. We warm ourselves by the fire, unaware that each flicker is a parcel of energy moving from the wood to our skin to the air. And always, light is moving. Through glass, through space, through memory. It does not pause, it does not return, it simply continues. And in its continuing, it connects the world. In every photograph, a photon once struck a sensor. In every painting, light revealed a moment. In every eye, 100 million photons fall every second, each one bearing information, each one giving something up. The story of light is the story of giving. So as we float in this river of motion without time, we begin to understand we are not just watching photons, we are made of them. Our cells communicate with light. Our thoughts are powered by chemical reactions set in motion by photons from the sun. Our history is written in starlight, in firelight, in moonlight, and the river continues without hurry, without end. The photons fly soft and sure across every distance, carrying not just energy, but the very rhythm of the cosmos. Let the light carry us now to the gentle end of its story, not in silence, but in softness. For the photon, there is no final moment, only a last gift. It travels until it is caught by a leaf, by an eye, by a sensor. And in that meeting, it surrenders itself completely. It gives all its energy in an instant, then disappears. It does not linger, does not resist. It simply ends, having fulfilled its purpose. And in that surrender, something beautiful is always born. A signal, a spark, a seed of life or memory. To live in a world lit by photons is to live in constant conversation with the stars. Every second, our bodies are bathed in the light of things far away, not just from the sun, but from the scattered brightness of the sky, the shimmer of the moon, the soft trail of starlight stretched over time. This light, these countless photons, do more than illuminate. They inform. They bring knowledge across the distance. They whisper truths written in the language of energy and time. When we look at a distant star, we are not seeing it as it is, we are seeing it as it was. The photons reaching our eyes now may have left that star centuries ago. Perhaps the star no longer burns, perhaps it has changed. But its light, still crossing the dark, still telling its story, keeps it alive in our sky. In this way, the photon becomes a keeper of time, a vessel for history. And though it experiences no time itself, it carries time to us. All around the universe this is happening. Photons born in distant galaxies stream toward us, some for billions of years. Others, much closer, come from fires, screens, or the flicks of a match. Yet they are the same kind of thing. Pure energy, shaped only by frequency, moving in unwavering lines. The vast and the small are linked by them, tied by light's gentle thread. There is no favoritism in this journey. Photons travel with the same speed, regardless of source. A supernova and a candle flame both send their light outward without judgment. They do not rush, and they do not delay. Light is constant. It is fairness written into the structure of the cosmos, a measure by which all things keep time, and this constancy is what lets the universe function. If light moved faster in one place than another, time would unravel. Cause and effect would lose their order. Reality would not hold together. But light, always at the same speed, creates the rules by which space and time are organized. It defines the edge of what can be known. It is the outer boundary of the present moment. And yet this edge is soft, not sharp or cruel. Light does not scream past. It does not blind unless forced. It moves with elegance, touching all it passes, offering itself freely. When it meets a petal, it paints it with colour. When it strikes the ocean, it dances in reflections. When it touches skin, it warms and comforts. It moves without sound, but not without voice. Sometimes it is delayed. It slows just a little when passing through the glass or water. But this is not hesitation. It is interaction. The photon dances with the molecules, is absorbed and re-emitted, nudged off its path, stretched and scattered. This gives us refraction, the bending of light, which lets us focus lenses, see rainbows, magnify the small. It is through these subtle delays that light teaches us the shapes of things. And sometimes it splits. A beam of white light passing through a prism becomes a spectrum, red to violet, each wavelength revealed, each photon with its own place in the song. This splitting is not a fracture, it is a revelation. It shows us what light is made of. It shows us that what looks pure may be complex, and in that complexity there is wonder. In the coldness of space, far from any sun, light still travels. Even in the dark between galaxies, it does not stop. It carries news from other realms, stories of collisions, births and deaths. It tells us about black holes and quasars, about the early universe, about things we may never touch but can still understand, for we are creatures who listen to light. Our telescopes are ears tuned to the sky, catching photons like drops of rain, collecting them into images, graphs and patterns. Each detection is a kind of greeting. Hello, distant star. Hello, ancient galaxy. Hello, echo of the beginning. And just as we listen, we also speak with light. We send photons outward, in radio beams, in laser pulses, in signals encoded with hope. Voyager carries a golden record etched with our story, and its faint radio transmissions still cross the void, carried by photons we can no longer see. These are our messages to the future, to the stars, to anyone who might listen. But even if no one hears, the light still moves, the photons still fly, and that in itself is enough. They do not need an audience. Their journey is their truth. So let us honour this light, not just for what it shows, but for what it is. A timeless traveller, a bearer of energy, a bridge between now and then. It moves through us and past us, leaving only warmth, vision, and the memory of its path. You can almost feel it now, the way sunlight slips through a curtain, or how moonlight settles softly on the floor. These are not grand gestures. They are quiet presences. They are reminders that we live in a sea of light even when we are not looking. In the end, a photon does not need thanks. It does not ask for attention. It simply continues, riding the current of space-time, joining the rhythm of all things. And we, who live by its grace, who see because of its presence, who feel because of its warmth, we are part of its story. Not just as watchers, but as participants, as beings made of energy, touched by starlight, shaped by the universe's most humble messenger. So let us walk gently beneath the stars, knowing that every glimmer is a photon arriving from far away. Let us open our eyes each morning to the gift of light, silent and complete. Let us feel its presence not as brightness but as connection. And let us remember always The photon is not just light. It is the universe saying again and again, I am here, I am moving, I am with you. There is a boundary in the universe not marked by walls or lines, but by quiet limits. These boundaries are not fences, but thresholds, soft edges beyond which things change, or cease, or never return. They are the horizons of black holes, the edges of light's reach, the outer rim of our expanding cosmos, and beyond each one lies a kind of silence we cannot cross. These are the boundaries of forever. Begin with the event horizon, the edge of a black hole. It is a place where space bends so completely that not even light can climb out. Not because it is held, but because the very fabric of time and space turns inward. A photon at the edge of the event horizon points toward escape but cannot move forward. The closer it gets, the more stretched time becomes. From far away, we would see the photon's slow, dim redshift until it fades from view. But for the photon itself, the crossing happens in an instant, without resistance. On one side, time flows. On the other, time falls inward. This is not science fiction. It is a quiet truth written into the geometry of space. A black hole does not suck things in like a vacuum. It does not pull, it curves. And space, like water following a slope, flows into that curve. Anything too close cannot help but follow. Even light, the swiftest traveller, obeys the slope. To understand a boundary like this is to accept that there are places in the universe we cannot see, not because they are far, but because their nature is hidden. Inside a black hole, time and space change roles. Time becomes a direction, space becomes tangled, and all paths lead inward. What happens there, beyond the horizon, is still a mystery. Perhaps the core collapses to a point. Perhaps the laws of physics rewrite themselves. Perhaps there is another side. We call it a singularity, but that is a placeholder word, a silence where understanding ends. Not because we do not try, but because our tools are made for gentler places. And yet even black holes are not eternal. They are born from the death of stars, from the collapse of great masses, from the convergence of gravity and time, and over unimaginable eons, they may fade. Through Hawking radiation they leak energy, slowly, silently, a photon at a time. Given enough time, trillions of years, they may vanish entirely. Even the deepest darkness has its ending. Beyond the black holes, there are other boundaries. The edge of the visible universe, for instance. Not a wall, but a horizon made by time itself. Because the universe has a beginning, and because light travels at a finite speed, there is a limit to what we can see. The most distant galaxies are not the farthest ones to exist, just the farthest ones whose light has had time to reach us. And this boundary changes. The universe is expanding, space itself stretches, and with it, the distance between galaxies grows. Some galaxies move away from us so quickly that their light will never arrive. They cross the cosmic horizon, slipping beyond our reach. Not because they are faster than light, but because space carries them away on a rising tide. Their photons stretch and fade until they can no longer be seen. These galaxies are not gone, but for us, they are lost. This is a gentle loss, not a violent one. It is the kind of separation that comes not from action, but from the slow rhythm of time. The boundary of the observable universe is not fixed. It is a wave moving outward, shaped by the age of the cosmos and the light that continues to arrive. Every second, the light from something newly visible reaches us. Every second, something else drifts past the edge, never to be seen again. Even time itself carries boundaries. Moments that cannot be returned to, possibilities that slip away. The laws of thermodynamics tell us that in every closed system, disorder increases, entropy grows, and so the universe moves not toward chaos, but toward stillness, toward a state where energy is spread thin, where motion slows, where heat becomes even. This too is a boundary, not one of space, but of becoming. A heat death, they call it. The far future when the stars have burned out, when black holes have faded, when everything is so spread apart that nothing happens anymore. It is not destruction. It is quiet. It is forever's lullaby. But between now and then, between birth and heat death, the universe is alive with change, with light crossing the dark, with particles finding one another, with galaxies spinning like slow fireworks. And every moment of that movement is bound by the speed of light, by the pull of gravity, by the shape of space. Even the idea of forever is bounded by what we can measure. We speak of infinity, but only ever in metaphor. Our minds are shaped by edges of days, of lives, of understanding. We reach, but we always reach from somewhere. And though the universe may be unending, our grasp is not. We see through lenses, through instruments, through minds made of matter and light. And that limitation is not a flaw, it is the shape of wonder. To live within boundaries is to be aware of them, to know that every star you see has a distance, that every ray of light began somewhere, that even the most distant galaxy is connected to you by photons, by time, by laws shared across all space. And this connection is not lessened by boundaries, it is defined by them. Without limits, there would be no meaning. No here or there, no now or then. Boundaries are what give shape to experience. They are what turn energy into moments, space into places, time into memory. So as we begin this story of forever, let us not fear the edges. Let us look to them as places of reflection, as the outlines of the universe's face, as the places where questions gather and wonder deepens. Because at the boundary of forever, we do not find an end. We find a pause, a breath, a place where the universe invites us to listen more closely. Now let us move gently closer to those edges, to the thresholds where reality becomes less certain and more mysterious. The universe, in all its calm and pattern, still holds places where certainty fades into curiosity, where our questions stretch as far as light can reach, and then wait. These are the boundaries of forever, not hard lines, but soft horizons that shift with time, pulling us forward into wonder. One of the most delicate of these boundaries is time itself. We move through it always, one moment to the next, like leaves carried by a slow current. We cannot pause it, we cannot turn back, and we cannot outrun it. Time holds us, quietly as the stars age and the planets spin. But time is not a background. It is a part of the universe's very shape, and that shape can bend. Einstein showed us that time is not a steady rhythm beating in the distance. It is woven into space, and it stretches and slows depending on where we are and how we move. Near something heavy like a planet or a black hole, time flows more slowly. In the emptier spaces between galaxies, it flows faster. And for something moving close to the speed of light, time nearly halts altogether. This means that boundaries in the universe are not just physical, they are temporal. There are places where time itself changes, where clocks tick more slowly or more quickly. A moment for one being may be an hour for another. The universe is filled with these shifts, gentle but real, layering time across space like thin sheets of glass. We use these truths every day, often without knowing it. Satellites that guide our navigation must correct for tiny warps in time caused by their altitude and speed. Without these adjustments, your phone wouldn't know where you are. The boundaries of time touch us constantly. We live within them, we rely on them. But there are greater boundaries still, ones we may never cross. Take the edge of a black hole again, that event horizon. From the outside, we can never see what happens within. Light cannot return, signals cannot reach us. It is not that something is blocking our view, it is that the rules inside are unreachable by any means we know. Whatever is inside remains forever hidden, not by distance but by physics. And yet, black holes are not completely silent. They shape the space around them. They twist light into rings. They reveal themselves by their pull on nearby stars, by the X-rays of falling matter. In these clues, we glimpse what cannot be seen directly. We touch the boundary through its ripple. Perhaps the most beautiful boundary of all is the cosmic light horizon, the limit to how far we can see into the universe. Because the universe is about 13.8 billion years old, and because light has a speed, there is a maximum distance we can observe, but the space beyond that distance exists too. It is just unreachable, for now and maybe forever. And yet the boundary is not static. The universe is expanding, and that expansion stretches the path of light. Some galaxies are already moving away from us faster than their light can reach us. They are not violating the speed of light. Space itself is growing, carrying them outward. They drift beyond our cosmic horizon. Their light too stretched, too faint, too far. This process is not dramatic. It is gradual, silent. Galaxies disappear from view, not in a flash, but in a slow fading. Their light redshifts into darkness, joining the quiet hum of background radiation. And so, the boundary of the visible universe becomes a moving edge, a soft, dissolving veil drawn across the stars. The universe is not only expanding, it may also be curved. Not like a ball or a saddle, but in ways we can barely imagine. This curvature shapes how light moves, how matter gathers, how time flows. It also determines the shape of forever. If space curves inward, the universe may one day contract. If it is flat or open, it may expand forever. Each shape carries its own boundary. Not a wall we can touch, but a fate written into the direction of time. A flat universe stretches onward, its galaxies thinning out like ink in water. An open one accelerates, its stars slipping away, until all that remains is silence and dark. And a closed one, perhaps, might one day fold in on itself, bringing time to an end not in stillness, but in return. These are not fantasies, they are possibilities written into equations, tested by measurements, debated with care. We send telescopes into space not only to capture beauty, but to read the subtle curves of starlight, to listen for the song of the early universe, to glimpse the boundary through the light that brushes against it. And here we begin to feel the emotional edge of forever, the truth that not everything is reachable, that some things remain out of sight, out of time, out of knowing. Not because we have failed, but because the universe holds its secrets gently. It allows only so much to be seen at once. It gives us boundaries not to trap us, but to shape our journey. In this shaping we find meaning. We find that not all doors must open, that mystery can be a kind of kindness, that the things we do not know keep us humble, they keep us reaching, and that in the reach itself there is beauty. Imagine standing on a mountain under a sky of stars. Each point of light is a boundary crossed, a photon that travelled across time, across space to meet your eye. But behind each one is a distance too great to touch, a history too long to follow, and yet you see it, you are present with it, you share that moment. This is the gift of the universe's limits. They do not deny connection, they deepen it. They make each light more precious, each signal more rare, each glimpse more sacred. Even in physics, boundaries are often where discoveries are made. At the edge of what we understand, new ideas emerge. The boundary between classical mechanics and quantum mechanics, between Newton and Einstein, between space and time. Each boundary is not a barrier, but a bridge. So let us stand quietly at the edge of forever, not with frustration, but with reverence. Let us listen to the silence that follows each question. Let us walk the line between known and unknown, not in fear, but in hope. Because the universe is not a cage, it is a field, a garden, a vast open space with gentle borders, and within those borders, every story is possible. Let us now step softly toward the final threshold, not an end, but a soft turning point, where the questions grow quiet and the universe holds its breath. The boundaries of forever are not where everything stops, but where everything continues beyond our grasp. They are the outermost edges of knowing, drawn not by fear, but by the natural hush of the cosmos. And in these margins, we are invited not to conquer, but to wonder. Some boundaries are not distant, some live inside us, the edge between memory and forgetting, between thought and silence, between what we are and what we might still become, Just as there are limits to how far we can see, there are limits to how deeply we can look inward. The brain, like the universe, holds its own kind of darkness, unmapped, endless, full of unknowns, but the most universal boundary we know is time. It moves forward only, always, and no matter how fast we run, how far we travel, it runs ahead. Even the speed of light is not fast enough to escape it, because time does not sit still, waiting to be reached. It flows, it carries all things, and one day it will carry the last star into stillness. There will come a time far beyond the years we count, when the stars will go out, when galaxies grow dim, when the universe cools to near nothing, a long twilight with no more fire, no more birth, just black holes slowly vanishing into the dark, just matter stretched thin across impossible distances. The universe will not end with a bang, but with a hush, a fade. Physicists call it the heat death, a time when entropy reaches its maximum and all gradients vanish. No more contrast, no more flow, only quiet sameness spread across endless space. It is not death in the way we fear it. It is the completion of a journey, the settling of the cosmos into deep stillness. But before that far future, there is so much more. Galaxies still collide and give birth to new stars. Black holes merge into dances that send ripples through the fabric of space. Life rises, looks around, asks questions. This too is part of the story, the slow unfurling between the bright beginning and the soft conclusion. And even now, at this very moment, we exist within the changing shape of forever. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is drifting toward its neighbour Andromeda. In billions of years, they will merge, reshaping the sky. The night will blaze with new patterns, but we will not see it. Not because it is not real, but because we are brief. Our stories are written on small pages inside a much longer book, and that is what makes them precious. Boundaries remind us of our scale, not to make us feel small, but to help us feel placed. The vastness of the universe is not a measure of our insignificance. It is the canvas that makes our presence meaningful. Because we are here, looking out, we are aware of the edge. We are the part of the cosmos that reflects on itself. Somewhere photons continue to travel. Some will never reach another star. They will journey through empty space forever, never to be caught. But their motion is still true. Their path is still part of the story, and perhaps in that journey there is purpose. We often imagine that the unknown is something to be solved, but perhaps it is also something to be held. Not every boundary is meant to be crossed. Some are meant to be noticed, to be felt, like the edge of the sea where the waves end and the sand begins, like the rim of a horizon where the sun slips away, not into darkness but into memory. So much of the universe is defined by what we cannot hold. Light that leaves but never returns, moments that pass and cannot be gathered, spaces too distant for touch. And yet, within all this drifting there is connection. Gravity pulls across billions of light years. Light carries meaning from stars long vanished. Time binds all things in sequence, no matter how far apart. These are the true boundaries, not of walls, but of threads. Lines that connect more than they separate, that guide rather than confine. As the universe continues its soft unfolding as stars rise and fall, as time stretches on, these boundaries remain. But they are not limits in the way we once thought. They are invitations to pause, to reflect, to imagine what might lie just beyond. And perhaps that is the final gift of the cosmos. Not answers, but questions that stay with us. A sense of more, of beyond, of forever, not as a destination, but as a direction. So stand for a moment at the edge of what you know. Feel the boundary not as a barrier, but as a place to listen. Listen to the silence between galaxies, to the light from long ago, to the gentle ticking of time. There is stillness here, there is wonder, there is the boundary of forever, and you are standing within it.